y'all, it's time for rolling dice and taking names. And in this episode, the guys are cutting right to the chase with reviews of Tangram City, Lunar Rush, Unmatched Slings and Arrows, Vampire Village, Pass, Vijayanagara, and Tetrarchia.
Hello and welcome to episode number 322, Rock the Casbah. I'm Tony.
I'm Marty, and Sharif don't like it.
Wow, that's an 80s throwback. It was 80s, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, from The Clash.
Okay. I couldn't even remember the name. It's just when the game we're getting ready to talk about, I was like, that's perfect. We may have already used it. I don't think so. I wouldn't, over 12 years. I don't know why we would use that song title, but hey, you never do know.
But it sure fits with the game we're going to talk about.
Lots of stories, but I tell you what, I will bore people with those later because we've actually been playing a lot of games.
It's one of those things to where on our past couple game nights, we've been getting out a lot of games on the table that are like 45 minutes. So we're able to throw in a lot into one game night, which gives us a lot to cover in this episode.
Yes. So if you're okay with it, I mean, I'm fine going straight to the games, or I can bore you with the story. Oh, and by the way, I have the dogs, my daughter's dogs again. So if you hear any leashes, everybody will understand. You can clip them
you
out.
could just remove the leash.
They're in training. Kind of like when Taz, your dog, would walk around with his leash. I always wondered why that was, but it's part of the training and part of the pull and things like that. But I think you just left it on Taz, so it was easier to get him out. I don't know.
All right. Enough about dog talk. We got a lot of games to cover. There's going to be some longer ones, a lot of 5-minute initiatives. So this is unusual, y'all. No banter. We're just going straight into content. And if you like this sort of thing, let us know. Go to our Discord channel that you can find over at rolldicetakenames.com. Make sure to subscribe or join. And if it's like, oh, wow, you guys got a lot of stuff in. I like this as opposed to listening to you guys talk for 20 minutes about medical conditions and things that go on when you get old, and jump straight into games instead.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that I'm going to reference the fact I'm on a muscle relaxer because I tweaked my neck, and therefore I won't be as engaged. Not that I've ever been really engaged in this show, but I've got an excuse for this one.
So you're feeling pretty good?
It still hurts, but we'll get through it. We'll live through it, or we'll just chop it off.
Chop it off like the neck?
Yeah, just go with it. Guillotine, I don't know. It's the way it's been hurting. I'm telling you, man. Oh, back to the game. So are you ready? Let's go over to our first 5 minutes.
5-minute initiative begins in 3, 2, 1.
Everybody knows I love a good spatial relationship game. Relations. No, spatial relations. That's it. That's the word I'm looking for. Right, Marty?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, well, that's a lie. My wife constantly tells me I have none of that. Well, Uwe Rosenberg has designed Tangram City, produced by Capstone Games. And this is about making a beautiful city with parks and buildings, and it's all balanced. It's got, you're sitting there, fountain tiles. You've got various red colors and green. And guess what? The person who has the most points at the end of the game wins. I haven't said that in a while.
Yeah, well, probably just like 5 minutes ago. So each of you have a player board with a 7x7 grid that you're going to be placing these tangrams on. Everybody has their own set of tangrams. Everybody has the exact same ones. They're double-sided, one side green, one side red. At the beginning of the round, cards are going to be dealt out, and depending on the number of players, it's going to change. But what's always going to happen, there's always one public card that everybody knows, okay, the first piece we're going to place is this particular piece right here. You could place it anywhere on your board as long as it's adjacent to one of your already placed pieces. And then starting with the first player, everybody will be given a hidden card that they get to see along with the public card. And on their turn, they're going to flip over that card, and everybody else must then place that piece. And then we're going to go around the table till all 4 pieces are placed that round. And then we're going to deal out 4 more cards, and this is going to continue 5 rounds. Or you're sitting there going, well, great, Marty, but how do I score points? Well, what you're going to do is at the end of every round, you're going to look for your largest rectangle, and that's going to score you points. If you got a 3x4 rectangle, 12 points, 5x5, 25, etc. But as you go, there's a little thing that you need to keep in mind, because at the end of the game, you're going to count up the number of red pieces that you have showing and the number of green pieces that you have showing, and you want to have them as equal as possible. Because if there is a very little difference between the number of red and green pieces, you're going to get bonus points at the end. If there's a large difference between the numbers, then you'll get no points. And you go, well, Marty, what does it matter? Just make sure they're balanced as you go. Well, I would tell you, because these are tangrams to where the opposite side may not fit the way you want it to, but it may not. But it may have the color that you need. So sometimes you have to make these decisions. Do I need to put it this way to get the color, or get that exact fit that I want to get a good scoring rectangle this round? And that, Tony, to me, is where the strategy is of the game as you play each round of placing these pieces on your board.
Yes, and knowing what's to come. I mean, all the pieces are right there. So you can kind of plan out. But like My City, I don't know if you remember My City, I related back to that on how the various tiles you were trying to surround trees and stuff in My City. So here it's that balance. That's the key to this game, is keeping that red and green balance. So the big problem I had, Marty, is when we were placing these, believe it or not, I know you don't, you definitely believe this, but these tangrams, the squares are a full block, and then you have half a blocks. My mind was having a very hard time recognizing that. And then it's not like it's mirrored. So when you flip it over, it's not going to be mirrored. It's, you thought it was going to fit in that way. No, it couldn't. I was struggling. I'll admit, I was struggling with this game and trying to get the biggest. First off, it's important for everybody to understand that big rectangle, you're always got to be working on that big rectangle to get your first round of scoring. Because if you don't, you're going to get left in the dust. And I was, because I was thinking, okay, in later rounds, I'll place that one there and this one there. And I was not creating a large enough rectangle on each round of the game. Big hint you might want to give people when you're playing this game.
This is one of those games that kind of clicked with me.
Yeah.
The special relation games just kind of clicked with me, so I did okay with this one. One thing I like about this game too is you do, at the end of your round, you do get this neutral corner piece of a block that you can place somewhere on the board to help you out. So if there's that one little gap you got to fill in at the end of each round, you do get to place that one. And I also like too that every piece is going to be used. So you can kind of plan out in that fourth and fifth round, you see the pieces you have left, you know what's going to need to go there. So kind of plan for it as you go along. So
yeah, the fountain tiles.
Yeah.
The slow time was everybody trying to calculate their green and red balance. I appreciate that you have that at the top where it's quick to manipulate to see how you're going to do to get that bonus scoring. But yeah, oh man, you looked at me. This is one of those games that, I enjoyed playing it, but I suck.
Yeah.
I did. It's one of those puzzle games that I always talk about on the show where, when we play these puzzle games, I want to solve the puzzle. But I know with this, for me, I could play this multiple times and I'm not going to solve it. Patchwork, I kind of can see that now after playing it as much as I have. So maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to play this like the 30 times I've played Patchwork on my iPad.
Right.
Oh, this would be a great iPad implementation.
It would be. And again, this is one of those games. This is what we're talking about. We got so many of these short, great games. That's when we have an episode just packed full of games. Only 30 minutes long, plays 5 players, and literally give everybody their pieces. And you sit down. Okay, everybody's going to get a card. Whatever piece shows up, you have to place it on your board beside an adjacent tile. After 4 pieces are placed, just count your largest triangle, and you're going to get points. Rinse and repeat 5 times. Oh, by the way, just make sure to try to keep your reds and green pieces as balanced as possible so you can get bonus points at the end. Rules literally could take 90 seconds to explain, and you're off and running.
Right. And if you do complete a 7x7 grid, you get an additional 15 points. I will never see that.
That's the part where you got almost perfectly fit everything exactly to pull that off.
So this is where the balance is of, okay, I know how all the pieces would go together to form that 7x7 grid.
Right.
But then you're sacrificing the rectangle at each round.
Right. And you don't know the order the pieces are going to come out, which will make a difference too.
I'll tell you what, I don't want to see this one. We can play it again, but I do not need this one for me because I would get so frustrated with this. I mean, I've got Don and I still play Patchwork. This is for a 2-player games. If you're playing 2 players, each player receives 1 card face down. The other 2 cards are placed in the middle. So I think it scales well based on the balance between the 2 to 5 players and how that's done. It's one of those things though, man, I know I struggle with this. And that's just, hey, that's who I am and I own it.
And for me, I like these kind of games. I do like the special relation games. So this is one that will stay on my shelf for the length of play and ease to explain the rules. I think it's just a really, really good, solid filler game. I'd
love for it to stay on my shelf, but I know how frustrated I'd get, so I can always borrow it from you.
So that is Tangram City from Uwe Rosenberg and Capstone Games.
5-minute initiative is complete.
I'm wanted, dead or alive. Well, dead or alive games, everybody appreciates my singing. I'm sorry. I just had to.
Where's he going with this?
You knew where I was going with this. Dead or alive games. Dead, alive games from designer Stephen Skippy Brown. You gotta like Skippy.
Skippy's a good baseball name.
He designed a game called Lunar Rush. It was kickstarted. It's a pick up and deliver game.
Yeah, no, it's not.
What do you mean?
It's not a pick up and deliver game.
I'm picking up cubes. I'm delivering cubes.
Yeah, I know. I totally get why you're saying that, but it's not like I need to deliver to a certain area. The theme of the game is you got ships that are going from Earth to the moon. You're going to take supplies up to the moon, and you're going to use those supplies typically to build things, upgrade stuff that's on the moon, modules and things, for the whole purpose of mining some crystals, taking those crystals back down to Earth and selling them on the market for the highest value.
So you're picking up in one place, delivering in on the moon, and then you're picking up on the moon and you're delivering back to Earth. So it's a two-time pick.
All right, fair.
So we've got stock market manipulation.
Yes, because as you sell these goods, the value is going to drop over time. Yep.
And to win, it's whoever has the most galactic credits or victory points,
which you typically get by selling these crystals, or you'll get some points for upgrades that you make over the course of the game.
Absolutely. One of the unique things before I go into the basic steps of the game, because this is actually a very, in my opinion, quick teach.
Mm-hmm.
You're not having to track cost of resources to pick up, to deliver to the moon. They're free of charge. Your limits aren't based on the cost. Your limits are based on how quickly you want them to get delivered to the moon. So what do I mean by that? So one of the very first things that you've got to do is we've all got to bid for initiative order. Anytime in a game that allows you to figure out who wants to go first, and you've got to put some skin in the game, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're bidding your galactic credits, your victory points, to take that opportunity to go first. All right? So we all bid for initiative. Whoever has the highest initiative, they have the opportunity to place their first rocket ship heading to the moon. And there are a fast route, a medium route, and a slow route. If you're taking the fast route, you are limited to a meager 2 spots on that spaceship. And there's 2 fast routes in a 4-player game. If you're going medium, you're limited to 5 spots on your spaceship. On a slow route, you're limited to 9. And almost all the cargo is only 1, except for the white cube, which is larger. I appreciated that. It counts as 2. So everybody goes around, they put out their spaceship, then they get to go again, put out their other spaceship. They can put it on the return flight from the moon, which has similar limits to how you can load it up. You can transport astronauts to the moon, and we'll talk about what they are and how important the astronauts are for you. Next phase, after everybody's placed their spaceships, we are going to deliver to the moon. We're going to deliver the resources up there, or we're going to move our spaceships towards the moon. Simple, easy. Everybody does that.
Can I interject something real quick?
Yeah.
Here's what happens is if you do the fast launch, the ship reaches the moon immediately that round. There's less things you can carry to it. The medium launch, that ship that you load will take the next round before it gets to the moon. The slow launch takes 2 rounds after that. So yes, you could have tons of items on the slow one, but you just got to know that, well, I'm not going to get any of these items for crafting or upgrading until 2 rounds later. So you just got to keep that in mind.
And it's a strategic element to that. You've really got to think out, and by the 3rd round, I'm going to have this delivered. So what am I going to be upgrading that will allow me to then produce more on the moon? And that to me is the strategy of the game. That is the challenge of the game. Games where you have to think a couple steps ahead. I don't know if it was a true brain burner, but it took a little bit behind that.
It did. And the same thing on the trip coming down. The fast ship's going to get there immediately, but of the things that you mined or are bringing back, you can only get 2 things on that ship. But let's say you've really upgraded your mining and can carry a lot of stuff back, then you need to take that slow route, but know that it's going to take a while for you to get there to get those much needed credits, which you might need for bidding or whatever.
But if someone delivers something before you, they're going to influence that stock market. So
Exactly. So if somebody on the medium route has the exact same types of crystals that's on yours, they're going to drive the price of those crystals down so that by the time you get there, you won't get as much for them.
And sometimes you might be delivering nothing because you didn't have anything to produce, but you had to put a ship down.
Yeah. Now, one thing I do like too is you talked about the astronauts. The astronauts actually become workers after you've done the movement phase. So on your player board, you have these really nice tokens that represent your astronauts, and you can assign them to different spots on your board to do things, such as increase your energy levels, which is basically your food that you're going to need to feed all those astronauts. What'd you roll your eyes?
Energy does not. It's the plants. Plants energies.
I'm sorry.
So everything plants.
I was actually picturing the green icon and saying energy, but it's food. So you can generate energy that you'll need for possible upgrades or for mining. You generate the food that you're going to need to feed these astronauts. You actually have to send out astronauts to actually do the mining in order to get those crystals to send back on the ship. But you got to keep in mind, all these guys got to be fed. And all these spots on the board can be used. And you start out with a limited number of astronauts. But how you get more astronauts up there? Well, you throw them onto a ship and send them off to the moon. Just got to make sure you can feed them at the end. But if you can't, you can always, if you want, put them on the ship to go back down to Earth. But they go back into your supply pool once they get there.
Right. But is there a penalty if an astronaut just can't eat or have a place to sleep on the moon? Oh, there's a little penalty called 25 victory points. Negative.
Yeah. And didn't that hit Mark? And that pretty much destroyed him.
Well, and then you were racking up on some. So to finish the turn up, so it's simultaneous. Everybody does the actions, which I like. But before you get there are some special cards you can purchase if you have enough elements. You had a really good one that you got early. There are certain ones, you could put an astronaut here and he would have gotten you 25 credits, but it took a lot of resources. You really had to plan it out. So, everybody has that opportunity to purchase an upgrade if they want and use it on their, for their placement of astronauts later. After everybody does the simultaneous action of generating resources, food, energy, upgrading stuff, everybody can just do what, you don't have to do it in turn order, which really speeds up this game. Love that you don't have that type of player interaction. The interaction comes once you deliver it. You load up your ships again, send them to Earth, as Marty said. And once you get there, then you sell the goods and that generates your credits. If you delivered 4 ore and it's at 10 GCs, you just got 40. But you drop the value, the supply drops by 4. So you're not having to count down and lose value. So you sold 4 at the market. The market was locked in, but now whoever comes after you, they've just lost 4 spots. Don't worry, if you get to a certain level, the market will reset and bounce back a little bit. Not a lot. The game comes with different markets, so that changes up the strategy and the replayability. Once everybody's gone through the market phase, guess what? Rinse and repeat. That's the game.
For 7 rounds.
And they go fast.
So it was funny. When I first saw the time on this, it said 45 to an hour 15. I said, there ain't no way 4 players are going to finish an hour and 15. This is a 2-hour game. I had to eat crow. It was like 1 hour 15 or a little bit more than that because turns do fly quickly. Because everything's simultaneous. The only time that you're taking turns is literally the bid at the beginning. one at a time based on initiative, you put your ships down. But after that, everything's kind of on autopilot. You start doing your own little thing and go through the entire rest of the phase by yourself. Now, I do like there's kind of a tech tree, because on your moon base, each of your little modules on your board can be upgraded by paying certain resources. And usually that's just taking the card and flipping it over to the better side. I found for me though, Tony, that card I bought at the very beginning of the game was uber powerful for me, because by placing a worker there, I generated energy, food, and one of each crystal. Now, if I didn't have that, it would take me 3 workers to do the same thing. 1 on the energy module, 1 on the food module, and then 2 on the mining module. That's take 4. You guys were like, that card is way too good, because I didn't have to upgrade much of anything else, and I won kind of with ease.
Well, but you were getting worried there, because I decided, all right, I see what he's doing. He's manipulating the market and jumping way out there. I started to quickly, on my later rounds, plan for making sure I had a lot of ability to upgrade. So because I was sitting there counting the points of all the upgrades, because you have to go to intermediate to advance on your upgrades. And I was like, okay, if I can get through all these and he doesn't, that might be able to help. I mean, I was sitting there, that's 24 points for this upgrade, or for these 3 upgrades. I'm like, okay, maybe this will catch me up. But that's the way the cards came out. I mean, you were able to get it quickly. You were able to generate the resources to do that upgrade. So, hey, kudos to you for snagging that, because in initiative order, you scored it right before me, because I had the stuff to be able to buy that one as well.
Right.
And the rest of them I didn't find any value to.
I don't think any of us really invested any of those. Instead, we just decided, and those come out random at the beginning of the game, right? So those will be changing every game. So I do love the whole concept of the fast, medium, slow ships, and the pros and cons of each one of those. I love tech tree type games, which this has. The speed of the game shocked me at how fast that it went. This game had got a lot of buzz when it came out last year. I think it was been nominated for a few things here and there, and I kind of see why. Because of the speed of play, and it does so much, a lot of people I think are going to like this game.
Yeah. And one of the things from a standpoint of later rounds, if you're like, but hey, my ship just got assigned to a slow pace in round 6. It will never make it to the moon. Guess what? Those routes get blocked off, and you don't place a ship. You get something in place of putting a ship there. So don't, and it's not bad. I mean, like, I think it was.
No, they're good. I took it one time.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got a free worker for that turn that you didn't have to worry about care and feed.
Yeah, because I had everything I needed on the moon. But what's cool is, for ships coming back from the moon, even if you put them on the slow track at the end of the game, all ships still come in. Right. It's just that by that point, you're going to be last, so the value of the market will be tanked by that point. But you'll still get something for the stuff that was on that slow ship.
All right, so that is Lunar Rush from Dead Alive Games. Hey, it was a fun stock market game hidden as a pickup and delivery game.
You're still going with that narrative, huh?
Head over to GameToppersLLC.com, where you will see a brand new webpage. That's right. Berkey has updated his page, where you can have some amazing pictures of the products out there. Better visualization of what he is offering. I mean, my heavens, quick links. Right there at the bottom, you have the order now, testimonials. I don't see Marty's testimonial on there, but we know how that is. Marty, you need to get a testimonial over on Berkey's page.
I should do that.
You should do that, absolutely. But as he states there, game toppers are high-quality gaming table toppers. That's what they are. They put them on your dining room table, put them on your coffee table. And now you've got the ability, believe it or not, if like on the coffee table, I've set mine up where I'm able to pick it up and go put it in an unused bedroom, and I can bring the game back out for me and Donna to play. Or maybe I'm doing a single-player game. If the game's small enough, that can happen. Now, when you get to some of those big beasts of a games, you're not going to be able to lift that bad boy up. You're going to need some help. But once again, instead of just having it set up, you can go put it somewhere else. It's a quick way to I got company coming over. I had company coming over here. So we need to clean this game up. No, put it on a game topper carry the game topper into another room where somebody's not, and then bring it back out when you want to. Great way to do those long campaigns of, a single player game like Gloomhaven or Frosthaven. Great way to do that. And of course, he's got the huge pictures of the game mats. Marty and I talk constantly about his game mats. Great quality. We roll ours out every time out at the Qdoba's when we're playing. Makes it so nice to know that there is no salsa or guacamole getting stuck to our playing pieces because the game topper protects it from what was on the table before. Or if we spill salsa on the game topper mat, it wipes right up. I've Scotch guarded it. Clean it straight up. And some of the mats, I love some of the simple designs like the water mat by Jay Shalinsky. It is such a good mat. A blue mat goes over the top. You can also do puzzles on this. I put them out, makes it easier to pick up cards for playing card games. Always use those game mats whenever I set up a game. That is over at GameToppersLLC.com. Check them out.
Restoration Games is back with another Unmatched box set. This time set in the Globe Theater of William Shakespeare, where you're going to be playing different characters that he wrote about, including the Wayward Sisters, Hamlet, Titania, and even Shakespeare himself. Now, I'll tell you what's cool about this. The Shakespeare deck that we're getting ready to talk about was designed by Jonathan Guberman, which was one of the winning decks in a 2020 design competition they had. So they had this big competition. Hey, design decks, and if we like them, we use them. Well, here's a case where Shakespeare was used, and they put some other decks around it. Now, if you haven't played Unmatched, it's a skirmish-style game, card-driven game, miniatures on the board. On your turn, you can move, draw cards, you can attack, take actions on the cards. Tony, we got the chance to play all 4 of these characters. And so what we're going to do is, instead of going into what the rules are of this game, we're just going to talk about the characters themselves and what makes them unique. So who's the first one you want to talk about that you played?
Well, I'm going to talk about the Wayward Sisters from Macbeth, the 3 witches that ultimately sent Macbeth to his demise.
Bubble, toil and trouble, flames burn and cauldrons bubble.
Cauldrons bubble. There you go. I think that's right. I didn't look up the iambic pentameter, which we will talk about later on what they do. It's just that they said he will be king, and then he kills the king, and then they say, well, you're going to die yourself. So, dude, you messed up. Okay.
Spoiler alert.
I know. If you haven't read Macbeth, I don't know if I ever read Macbeth.
I did. I had to in school. We had to read it. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't read in school. So the Wayward Sisters. So there's 3 of them here, and the way that you lose with the Wayward Sisters is all 3 have to be defeated. Now, keep in mind, their hit points are very low. So, you got to be able to protect them. But when you play the Wayward Sisters and you
How many are there? 3?
I think there's 3 because there are 3 in the play.
Fair.
Okay. They're not, and by the way, they're not weird. They're wayward. And
right.
But some people call them
the
Wayward Sisters. Like you said, they have a cauldron. So they are going to be brewing up some spells in this cauldron. So on your turn, when you play a card, it may have an ingredient on it, a snake, a bat, or a lizard's leg. And when you're done playing that card, it goes into your cauldron instead of your discard pile. After your attack, you can do, if you want, a spell. You can say, hey, I'm going to do my bat and my snake or my lizard leg, and it will give you a special opportunity. Like if you put all 3 of those together, you gain 1 action. When I was playing it, I was like, okay, I really want to be able to use this to gain the advantage, but that card doesn't really help me at this time. Now, after your attack, you may use the spell, and then you discard all the cards in the cauldron. So it's not like you can be able to do multiple spells at one time. That's not how it works. You attack, use the spell if you want to. If you do, then discard the cards. Next player's turn. I found them very hard to play. I did not do a good job of protecting them, and you went through them with no issue at all. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? Do witches float or ducks float, wood floats, all that stuff.
Very small rocks, gravy.
So it will be interesting to see, I think it'll take a little practice to get good with them and knowing how to, hold back on certain cards. And any cards you use in your action, during the attack can be used for the spell. So that is the Wayward Sisters.
All right, so I got to play Shakespeare when you play the Wayward Sisters, which has a Shakespeare and then 3 actor side tokens. Now, here's the cute thing about Shakespeare. His goal is to try to create an iambic pentameter. When you play a card, the card will say, there's a words on the card and it says how many syllables this card is worth. After you play a card, you put it down and play in front of you. Your goal is to try to build up a line of cards whose syllables total 10. Now, when that happens, first thing you do is you read out the iambic pentameter that it created, and then you get to do the special action that's on the last card played. For example, it could be like draw a card. It could be place each of your figures in any space. It could be draw 2 cards. Shakespeare recovers 2 health. So your whole goal as you're playing is try to make that 10. What happens if you go over 10? You bust, you clear out all those cards, you have to start again. So what's clever about this is the order that you play your cards to make sure to get that bonus, make sure that it adds up to 10 when you put that final card down without busting. And so you may want to save a card. It's like, ooh, this would be good to play right here, but if I do, I'll bust. So I'll do this instead so I can take this particular action. So that's the cleverness behind the Shakespeare deck.
And you have to say it. You have to say the entire expression.
If it may not make sense, but it was still fun to say.
That's right. Well, the ultimate question is with Hamlet. To be or not to be? You have to, at the start of your turn, decide, are you going to be or are you not going to be? Because if you are to be, when you will take an additional card during the maneuver action. However, if you're in a position to do a good attack, you might want not to be. It will give you +2 to the value of Hamlet's attacks. And he will therefore be able to hit people harder, slap them across the face a little bit harder. However, you have to take 2 damage to one of your fighters, either Hamlet or the single fighter Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. You've got a decision there. I can do more damage, but I also am basically hitting myself. So stop hitting yourself. Stop.
But I want to be.
No, not to be. Not to be.
Not to be, yeah.
Yeah. So that is Hamlet, and it's Hamlet the Question.
So then the other one is Titania, the Fairy Queen. I never read A Midsummer Night's Dream. Did you?
No.
I didn't either. So I don't know anything about her or her companion, King Oberon. But I did enjoy playing her because what she has are glamour cards. This is a deck of cards that give like an ongoing ability. For example, one of them is when Titania or Oberon are attacked before playing a card, they may swap spaces. If they do, now the other fighter is a defender, which is really cool. So that's always kind of in play. And then as you play cards, it'll give you the option to discard a card, draw another card. And it's very reminiscent to me of the Doctor Strange deck from Marvel Champions, because he has a spell deck, which is off to the side, and it has like an ongoing ability, whichever card's on top. And then you can cycle through that deck and get new abilities too. So that's what this reminds me of. So I like that. I like the idea. It's like, okay, I know it's in the glamour deck. And if there's a certain card you're searching for, it's like, well, I know there's this one I want. So you're playing cards to try to get it through it to get that passive ability that you like. So that is the little twist on the Titania. I
was getting ready to say Titanic. Yeah.
Deck. I will say each of these are extremely unique. I think thematically they're very cool. I think the Wayward Sisters with the cauldron, I think is really neat. I think that's my favorite of the 4 that we tried out here.
Yeah. 3 Sisters was tough. I liked Hamlet. I like those easy decisions.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, if you're into the Unmatched series, this new one, full set, 4 characters, all very unique. And of course, if you have other sets, you can mix and match these. And that's what's fun about this, Tony. It's like, hey, Shakespeare is now going to go up against Bigfoot or something like that. You know, it's you can mix and match these however you want, which is always fun. So that is Unmatched Slings and Arrows from Restoration Games.
All right, one of Marty's favorite style of video games is tower defense, and I enjoy it as well. Tower defense, love those games. How do I get better? Defend, did I build up enough defenses to have to survive. I think I probably got in my Steam account. I may have 5 or 6 various types of tower defense games.
You know why I like it? It's because my gameplay for games like this is turtling. And like tower defense is all about turtling. It's building the strongest defenses I can to defend against oncoming attacks. So I love that mechanic. And I was so excited to try this game that we're getting ready to talk about, which is kind of like a tower defense style game.
It's called Vampire Village, designed by Maxime Ramberg from Studio H. So normally in tower defense games, you're building, there'll be a path that they'll be walking down and you'll slowly pick them off. Mm-hmm. But this is a little bit different. This is like building a town in Carcassonne, which will be onslaughted by a bunch of witches, werewolves, vampires, or demons. The witches are going to come from the left of your village. We know the werewolves are going to attack from the top. The vampires are going to come from the right. And the demons just materialize.
Mm-hmm. And do nasty things to you. Yep.
What's going to happen is you're going to get a hand of cards. So here's the mechanic that, I enjoy, card drafting. Mm-hmm. And you'll have village tokens that either have defense values on them or hero tokens.
Cards.
You'll pick
cards.
Cards. Yeah, cards.
Yeah, they're village cards. Yeah, they're not
cards.
Tokens. Yeah.
The little, how many people are on there? They got the little people faces that you stick on there. Those are tokens.
The villagers themselves, yes.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Stay with me. It's 125 tokens of front villager, back threat.
Okay, I totally get that. But the things that you're drafting are going to be these village cards that either have buildings on them or heroes. Continue.
So you look at that card and you're like, oh, this has got a defense of 1 against witches and 3 against werewolves. Okay, I'm going to place it next to my starting village tile because there are restrictions on how you can place these various tiles. And then you're going to pass to your left. Other rounds you'll pass to your right. As you're passing and you build out your village, you are building up the defenses against these very nasty creature cards. Mm-hmm. And after everybody's done, hey, make sure everybody was valid in their village.
I think you could build a 4x4 village with the cards. Yep. So it's a tableau builder. So in that part, you're basically building a tableau and you're trying to get all your defenses, any buildings that are good against defenses with witches on the left, anything good against vampires on the right, any villages good against werewolves at the top of your village.
Mm-hmm. So once you've done that, you now move to the creature phase. This was very interesting as well. It's got draft mechanic as well.
Well, it's not a draft. You got to keep a monster for yourself. Give your opponent to the left a monster and the opponent to your right a monster. So maybe if Tony's to my left and I go, oh, look, Tony is kind of weak against witches. I'm going to pass him this witch card over here. Likewise, you may look at mine and go, oh, Marty has no defense against vampires. He's taking this vampire card. But you got to keep one for yourself too. So you want to make sure that whatever you keep that you can deal with.
You got to watch what people are building. Mm-hmm. Let's face facts. That's what you're doing. You're trying to say, okay, I see how Marty's laying out his village over there. He's probably going to be passing some of these witch cards. But wait, these witch cards also are determined based on, some of them say to the player to your left or to the player to your right. Mm-hmm. The werewolves have different colors. Mm-hmm. And if you have 3 gray wolves that are attacking your village, each gray wolf gets a strength. So if there's 3 gray wolves, each gray wolf is the strength of 3. The vampires are just straight out hard, big numbers.
High value attacks. No shenanigans, just high numbers.
Demons who attack first during all these phases, they have 2 powers. They can eliminate a hero or they'll have a special effect. Mm-hmm. And you have to defend against those.
What's the goal of the game? Those village tokens that we mentioned earlier, when you put down a card, a building card into your tableau, you add village tokens to it. The goal at the end of the game is to have as many villagers alive as you can, because each of those are going to count as points. So you're trying to keep villagers alive because anytime a building would be removed, if it has villagers on it, they're gone.
Mm-hmm. They're eaten.
Yep. They're destroyed by the monsters. So placing a building adds villagers to it, and then you're just trying to make sure to protect those by building up defenses around them.
Every game's going to be different because you're laying out the order in which the witches, the vampires, and the werewolves attack, which attacks first. And we mentioned hero cards, and we'll talk about those in a minute, but to me, it was interesting to say how you can build layers in your village. So once, like a witch comes in on the left and he attacks, they will sit there, and if you don't have enough strength, like you said, you eliminate that piece of the village. And you keep going through that process until either they wipe you out or you stop them.
Right. Yeah, because you add up the value of the attacks, add up the defense. If the attack is higher, you have to remove one of your buildings. If the building has any villagers, they're gone. But when you do that, you also remove the lowest strength monster that attacked. So they got a little bit weaker also. So then they move on to let's say if the witches are attacking, they attack your left column, they'll attack again. And this attrition keeps happening until, like you said, Tony, you have no village buildings left, or you've safely protected. So once your defense is higher than the oncoming monsters, then that's it. The attack is over from that particular type of monster.
Let's say you don't defeat them all.
There's 2 monster rounds. We're going to do this again with the monsters. We keep one, pass one to the left, pass one to the right.
Go through the process again, rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
What's ever left, we build the next construction phase of the village, trying to fortify our village again, trying to bring people back in. And then we go through phase 2 of 2 monster attacks. But if you didn't get rid of all the monsters from phase 1, they join the hunt.
Yep.
For such a simple concept, I don't know, this was so much fun.
I had so much fun with the game. So that's it. Like literally build a village monster attack, 2 rounds of that. At the very end, count the number of villagers left on your cards. And for any creature that is still left on the outside that has been repelled against, you also get points for it too. Person with the most points wins.
And the heroes, I mentioned the heroes. So heroes can also be part of the village. You've hired in these mercenaries, these heroes, and they can move the villagers around in the village to protect them from getting eaten by the werewolves, the witches, or getting the blood sucked out of them by the vampires.
Well, the nice thing about the heroes too is if they are part of a defensive attack and you lose, the hero there allows you to remove any of the attacking monsters and not the weakest.
I didn't get to experience that.
Oh, I did, because I found like those vampires are really nasty. So if I could get a hero on the right column where the vampires are going to attack, even if I lost, I get to remove the highest strength vampire as opposed to the lowest strength, which is what you typically have.
Y'all kept all the heroes.
Yeah, we did.
It was very frustrating.
Yeah, we did. But yeah, the heroes are good for basically you're taking your villagers on the outside of your village and moving them inward because you don't want them to be on the outside columns or rows when those are attacked.
As far as iconography goes, very easy to understand. Love that about it. So there wasn't a lot of us in the rule book trying to figure out, oh, what does this mean? Like the demon details, you had destroy a hero. And it was straightforward. People can pick this up very quickly. Quick setup. Rinse and repeat again if you want to play it again, because if you didn't like the results, like your village got completely ransacked. This game maybe 15, 20 minutes, as long as there's not a lot of AP going on.
Right. Yeah. They list on the box 25 minutes, which is right spot on. That or less. One I like about, there's so many things I like about it. Number one, you mentioned tower defense. I love tower defense style games. I love drafting games. I love the fact that even though it's a tableau builder, it's not a solitaire tableau builder, because when it comes to the monster phase, you do need to look around the table to your left and right and see what they did, because you can directly affect them with the monster cards that you give them. So there is some player interactivity about how you could affect your neighbors, and likewise, they can do the same to you. So all those things add up to something that was super enjoyable to me. And I will say so far as of May 2024, this is one of the best games I've played so far this year.
Oh, okay. I hear you.
It's stuck with me. I've left it in my car because whenever we have time, I want to pull it out again. I just, the big game that we talked about before, we talked about years ago, was After the Empire, which is also a tower defense style game. Great game, super long, a lot of setup. Yes. This gives me the feel of that in 25 minutes.
And you can talk trash to one another real easy in this game.
How so?
Well, I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking, oh, look at Mark, he's getting ransacked, and you can pick at one another for, what kind of defense is that? I think there's a lot of strategy in that, in thinking, well, maybe I will sacrifice this outer edge to help eliminate. I'll just put one building out here in the second phase, let them run through that, and then I've got my strength on the interface, because how the buildings get removed may change the various defenses. So you also got to keep that in mind. So it's one of those things I'm thinking, okay, I really don't want this card. I'm limited by where I can place it, but let's just go ahead and sacrifice it. So I can put it out there, put a hero out there in front so he can just be a big old sponge and soak up the damage.
Right. And at the beginning of the game, the order that they attack is also different every game. So the one game, the witches may attack first, and the next game, the vampires may attack first. The cards that you draft have clearly defined shields at the top left and right, indicating what they're good at defending against. So the best thing, Tony, right, is if you can find a village building that protects against werewolves at the top, vampires at the right, put that in your upper right corner, and it defends against both types of attacks.
Right. And this plays up to 5 people. So that adds to it a little bit. I don't think this would be a lot of fun with 2.
Anything with drafting is more fun with more people.
Like I said, this game is one that if we've got time to kill and we're not playing Star Wars Unlimited, we'll play this.
Yeah.
Okay. Not you and I. When Bert shows up and waiting on Mark or something like that, hey, slap this on the table anytime. As long as you keep the cards separated, fast setup, easy teach.
Yeah. No, I'm serious, y'all. As soon as I heard what this style of game was and different mechanics in it, I was into it.
Enjoyed the artwork.
I don't have much negative to say against it. I really don't. Because it's so short that there's nothing that's going to be like, oh, that's a real pain in the butt, because it just doesn't stay on the table long enough to get in the way of itself, sort of deal.
So that is Vampire Village from Studio H.
5-minute initiative begins in 3, 2, 1.
If somebody gives us a chance to play a new card game, we're going to do it. And that's what we do with this new game called Pass Pass from Funny Fox, from Alexander Droit and David Pupu. In this game, players are going to be dealt 8 cards. They come in 4 suits. The first player is going to play a card of their choice. Then each other player plays a card of whatever choice they want to. Doesn't have to follow suit or anything. Whichever color collectively has the highest sum wins the trick. More specifically, whoever played the highest card in this color takes one of the played cards to their collection. Whoever played the second highest card as the 2 cards with the lowest value to their collection. And then they'll go on to the next trick. Now, Tony, one of the things we got into a discussion about is this a trick-taking game? Bert said no, I say it is.
It's not. You're not taking all the cards. Tricks are all the cards.
I don't think you need to take all the cards for it to be a trick-taking game.
It is by my definition.
Trick-taking is a type of card game mechanism where players take turns playing cards in the hand to a central play area with the goal of winning tricks. A trick is a set of cards played by each player in a specific order, and the player who wins the trick gets to take it. Okay, well, when you read it like that...
Yeah.
Okay, we're splitting the trick out, though, so it's not like one person's taking it. Okay, whatever. All right, so anyway... What you're trying to do is, at the end of the round, for every card that you've taken, you're going to get a point. Some of the cards have diamonds on them, and you're going to get additional points for those diamonds. But there's this concept called Pass Pass. If you have one of every color, you get basically what's called a Pass Pass. And if you get 3 of those over the course of a game after playing in 3 rounds, you automatically win the game. So, Tony, strategically, what did you think about this game as we play when it's so simple of like, play any cards you want, pretty much?
So I think there's 2 different types of strategies depending on how you play it. If you play it in teams, there's a definite strategy of trying to help your team win the game. As an individual, you may need to, I think the game changes dramatically. From a team standpoint, I felt like any other card game to me. Trying to understand how are we going to win this hand, or do you need to play off suit from what I played as my partner so that you can be the next highest card in the winning color so that you can collect certain cards? And how do you prevent people from doing that? That's kind of a standard, to me, card game when you have partners. But in a singular environment of, every person for themselves.
Which is what happens with the 3-player game. 4 players team, 3 players single.
This game changes, I think, dramatically because having the lead in most games is very powerful. In this game, not so much. This game, you may not want the lead so you can see how you can build your pass. A lot of strategy around that, a lot of thinking on that. And also not having Trump as an instant winner really can adjust how the cards are played. I mean, what do you want to do? You don't have perfect knowledge of the cards that are coming out. All these little things that you do as a standard card playing game are pretty much kind of thrown out the window for this.
Yeah, this game does play up to 6 people, so we only got to play with 4. I'd be curious to see how it would be with 6. I think we found with playing with teams in 4, getting 3 passes wasn't too hard to do as the way to win the game.
Mm-mm. Now, you need to bring that and let me try it with my group of 6.
Okay.
And now, being standard card players, I think I might blow a fuse, okay? Because, like you said, it is going to be hard to get past this. There's no trump. You don't have to follow suit. All that's out there. You're looking at the value of the cards, but then you also have to consider all these other elements to it.
Right. And you also got to think, too, that if you can work out to be the second highest of the majority, you get 2 cards instead of 1. Sure, the person who wins gets to pick a card of their choice, but remember, every card's worth 1 point.
All right. And in a 3-player game, that is a big, big advantage.
Right.
So I mean, I was getting frustrated with the game, but as once again, after you play these games, it's like, okay, what did I do? What did I not understand? That's why, just bring this to game night. Let me try it with the 6 people. I will see how it plays out.
Okay. So for our quick thoughts then on just the 4-player team-based game, there is some strategy in this game, how you work with your teammate, try to decide, hey, can I get you the second highest in this suit? Or, by the way, if everybody plays the exact same color, then the 2 highest of the same color wins. If everybody plays 4 different colors, it's just whichever color is the highest of that color that's going to win things. So we've talked about with 4-player. We're going to give it to Tony, let him play with 6. And Tony, you come back and tell us how it works with a 6-player game. So that is Pass plays 3 to 6 players from Funny Fox Games.
5-minute initiative is complete.
Miniature Market always has this little thing, it seems, that when a holiday's coming around, they're going to put up a sale. Well, Memorial Day is coming around really soon, and I bet you there is going to be a big sale over at their website. Now, of course, they have their backroom deals that they have going on each week, so you might want to make sure to pay attention to those that start on Tuesday and end on Friday. And also, they've started doing a lot of streaming during the week. If you go and look for their YouTube channel, you can subscribe and you can see these live plays of games that they've been doing each week. Some of them are new, some of them are old. You can see how games are played. In fact, one of our recent games that we covered, Sand, they played it live and then actually gave away copies during the stream. And remember, make sure to click on our affiliate link, which you'll find over on our website at rolldicetakenames.com. By doing so, you can help out the show a little bit. And to find out more, well, I could say go to miniaturemarket.com, or it'd be better if you just go click on that affiliate link for us. Thank you. Okay, the next game we're getting ready to talk about is a GMT game. Stop. Don't skip. Hold on. Don't skip. Look, I know that we've been talking about a lot of GMT games, and you guys think, oh my gosh, another dry historical game. This is actually one of those that I think is very new player friendly. It doesn't matter whether you're into historical games or not. I think this is a really unique 3-player game that can play in 90 minutes that I think you'll really enjoy. And just give us a little chance to talk about it. So this is Vijayanagara from designers Saverio Spagnoli, Matthew Johnson, Corey Graham, and Amon Matthews. Again, this is a 3-player only game that is inspired by coin-like games, which we've talked about before, Tony. But to me, this is now the new intro into this style of game of introducing asymmetric factions and event cards and action selection among the players.
Now, they say that it's the first of a new series called Irregular Conflict Series.
That's correct. So I was going to ask an exact definition of Irregular Conflict Series. There is a difference between the two. And I've seen some technical this isn't exactly a counter-insurgent type game, but it borrows some of those mechanics from a coin game to where if you understand this, I think migration to something over Cuba Libre would be very easy.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. I agree. I found the simplicity of this game refreshing.
Yes.
I mean, you open it up and you get the typical GMT huge books, but they've added a book, didn't they?
Learn to Play. Love this. This is a brand new style of rule book that was somewhat inspired from the FFG rules, where you had the big rules reference and a Learn to Play guide. They've done the same thing here, where it's a really short Learn to Play, easy read, and kind of easy to get up and going without having to read that full reference book, but you can use that reference book when needed.
And by the way, when Marty taught this to me at our play night, I mean, it was like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But I'll admit, I have the coin experience. So when he was talking about event cards, I knew what to expect. When he says coin, I knew, okay, so somebody's going to have the first selection of either doing the event card or passing it on, and they get to go do something else. And then the next player has that option. So I understand that whole concept. So that was pretty straightforward and easy for me. Now, the three asymmetric players, actually they have differences in their board, but both of them have commands and decrees. So, commands are pretty much, like rally your troops, migrate, move your troops, or decrees may be building a fortress or whatever your building is called, or you may trade to get more resources. So you have some hard choices here of, okay, do I take the event? Especially, this was new. Did the other GMT coin games have this? What was it? Keep effect? No, not keep effect. Where you could take the event, but yet you would still be in the play for the next round.
Stay eligible.
Eligible.
Like a lot of the that was
yeah.
new. A lot of the event cards had the option to stay eligible, because typically when you take a full turn of a command and decree or the event, you're ineligible for the next round. Very coin-like. But some of the events said, well, if you take this event, you actually stay eligible, which came into play a lot of times for us when we just like, oh, I really like a command and decree, but if I take this event, I get to hang around next time, and I may do that. So that's a little bit of a different twist too. I also like to, in this 3-player game, if 3 of you are eligible, all 3 of you will get to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody could take the event. Somebody could take the full command and decree. The other person has the option to take what's called a limited command, where they could do one of their commands in just one spot, but they stay eligible the next turn. So nobody's going to sit out an entire round if everybody's eligible, which I like.
I didn't feel like we had to deal with a lot of majority and that kind of stuff going on. Who's got the majority here? It meant certain tokens would be removed from the game and control would be added, but that was pretty straightforward, easy to do. The battling, on the other hand, I was a little confused about, because when you are attacking, there, you and Bert had already played this, and so you just basically y'all rolled and resolved a whole bunch of stuff. But it was like you get to roll. The attacker is rolling 4 dice, the defender is rolling 2 dice, and hits are based on the number of cubes you have equal to or less, right?
It's equal to the number of units you have participating in battle. Yeah,
okay.
A hit is whatever you roll must be equal to or less than. So the more units you have, the greater chance you have of succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
5 units means anything 5 or less will be a hit. If you only have 2 involved in battle, then you need a 2 or less in order to make a hit. But there is some dice mitigation. You have these things called cavalry tokens that you can use to decrease your die by 1, or you can actually cancel a hit of what your opponent just rolled.
So I'm like, okay, a couple battles, I understood the flow of this.
Mm-hmm.
I began to understand the positioning on the board, and I like how there was, the 3 factions. Okay, you and I need to be able to go up there and battle Bert, because he's getting a little too powerful, but I got to watch out for you because you could turn on me and then start hurting my capability of battling. So I like there was that good balance between the 3 players of keeping each other in check. I see what I need to be doing here, but I can't forget both of y'all. I've got to balance between the 2 of you and maybe keep you both on your toes. So I was like, Marty's coming from the southern border and Bert's got from the northern border. And I'm like, oh my heavens, how do I manage this? Well, Bert helped me out. There was some posturing between us. We need to take care of Bert. We need to take care of Marty.
Well, that happens in coin games too. And what we found was 2 of the factions, Vijayanagara and Bamani, are very similar in what they're doing. They're in the south. And this takes place, the years for this is 2090 to 1398. Basically, the Sultanate from Delhi to kind of control everything. These factions are trying to take over, etc. So 2 of these are very similar in how they play. The Delhi is very different though, Tony. They're trying to kind of keep everybody in control, but there's another force they're having to deal with. They have these Mongol factions trying to attack from the north. During the event deck, there'll be a card that some card comes up and says, hey, Mongols attack. Then one of the other 2 factions actually take control, and they will either deploy some new Mongol cubes into play. They can migrate them down and actually attack that other faction. So that faction, which the rulebook state is the most difficult to play, really has wars on 2 fronts. One in the north, one in the south.
I'm not going to be able to sultanate.
Yeah, one of those.
I thought that was probably one of the harder factions. I didn't get to play it, but it looked to me like that was one of the harder factions to play on this.
Well, that's what I said. The rulebook says it is.
It does. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because I was sitting there thinking, man, you got to worry about a lot of stuff up there.
Yep.
Got to keep everybody in balance. I was like, dang. I also like the timing mechanism of this game. How it goes through the various phases, and where you set up the cards. The decks, and then at the last stack of cards that is set, you don't know when the end game's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always liked that about games where there's that unknown, like, okay, we're getting near the end of the game. It could happen real quick. So you better be ready to play the card or put that last force in action to go, where you go out and say, okay, here's my master plan, and you got to execute on this, because you may find yourself at the short end of a stick from that stamp. Is that a saying?
Yeah. I do like, too, how the event deck is set up. There are 4 quartiles. That's nice. 4 quartiles in the deck, where each one contains 6 events and 2 Mongol attacks. And then after that, there's going to be kind of a little bit of a reset. And then you go through another 6 cards, 2 Mongol attacks, and all those are shuffled together. So you don't know when those attacks are going to hit. And like you said, by that last quartile, there's just 2 cards in there. They'll just immediately trigger the end of the game. And the final end of the game is actually a big attack from the north that Delhi must contend with. And their goal is to try to knock out as many of them as they can, because they can either end up with some like 3 positive points or a bunch of negative, which is what happened when Mark played as them. And he did not do a good job of handling them, and he actually lost a lot of points because of that final attack at the end. I also love the simplicity of the scoring. It's literally, if you control a spot on the board, there's a certain number of prosperity points that location has or province has. Add up those points plus the number of buildings that you have, and that's going to be your total points for each of us. And then Delhi has kind of the same thing set up for them controlling certain prosperity sections, as long as it's set. There's something called a tributary. I'm not going to get into it, but they have to have that set up too. But I love how the scoring is very simple, and the person with the most points wins. In coin games like Cuba Libre, there's a certain threshold you had to meet in order to win. That doesn't exist here. It's just whoever most wins. That's why I think this is a very simple game to teach and learn, because it has a very Euro feel to it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So, I mean, my final thoughts on this. Cuba Libre was always that intro coin game, and this is not a coin game, even though it strips away a lot of the coin complexities.
Mm-hmm.
It plays with 3-player, easier to get to the table, easier to teach. People will pick up on the strategy fairly quickly if they're familiar with these styles of majority control games, battling with the dice. I really enjoyed playing this one. I mean, the GMT, we talked about Prime Minister last year, big hit. For me, this was definitely in May of 2024. It'll be on Tony's, best games of the year list.
Wow.
So it's going to take, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing that game. I even liked how, not because I won, but it was because.
There it is.
There it is. There it is. But it was the fact that the tension was there in this game. I enjoyed the tension, not knowing, like we said, when the end of the game was going to come. So I found it very enjoyable.
Like I said, right off the bat, I think if coin style or something is like, I'm interested, but I don't know a lot about it. This takes enough of those little elements, the very basic elements of understanding a card from the event deck will determine the order the factions will take their turns. The fact that you've got options for your actions, the event or command and decree. Didn't mention this. Another decision you have to make. Let's say the event card is no good for you at all. But say Tony's the one that's getting ready to go next and it's really good for him. I have the option of blocking that event space, not taking the event, but taking what's called a full command, which I can use one of my commands in as many spaces as I want. I'll be ineligible next turn. I don't get to take advantage of that decree, the extra little action, but I block somebody else from taking the event. So it's just another little decision that you need to make. And I love the simplicity of how victory points are determined. I just love how very simple it is. It's an area majority game that's easy to look at the board and see how people are doing. And like you said, not knowing when the game ends just adds that extra tension element to it. So from here on out, until this is replaced with something else, this will be my go-to teach for somebody that says, I'm interested in coin. I don't know anything about it. Is there a game that you can teach me some of the mechanics? And I'll go say, yes, you need to play Vijayanagara from GMT Games.
5-minute initiative begins in 3, 2, 1.
All right, we have not played a co-op game in a while, and this is a re-release called Tetrarchia by Miguel Marquis, publisher Draco Ideas. And this is a cooperative game where Rome is in demise. Enemies are on its borders. It's getting ready to be sacked. It's up to the emperors to defend off the hordes of barbarians and Gaul and all these other people to keep the empire satisfied and together. But we all know what happened. The walls fell. Rome fell. We are cooperatively trying to keep the empire from falling. On your turn, players will have the ability to spend 6 points. These points can be either to move, sail, secure, subdue, or attack the invaders. You've got to be able to move your emperor around to be able to resolve the various pieces on the board. And my mind keeps flashing back to Pandemic, Marty. I'm removing cubes.
I know it is. Remember when I sat down and I taught you this game? I said, okay, you know how Pandemic works? This is kind of the same way. There's going to be revolt and unrest tokens on the board. You want to clear off tokens and secure the border of each province. How does that relate? Oh, maybe by removing certain colored disease cubes from Pandemic and eradicating that disease so it doesn't show up again. It's kind of the same thing. So if you're familiar with how Pandemic works, this is going to feel very familiar. Just add in the element of combat.
There you go. And then at the end of your turn, you're going to roll 2 dice that will put more riots. The people are rioting in the street.
The barbarians are. Yeah, they're coming in. The barbarians are encroaching on us.
That's right. And there's the similar feeling of outbreak. You have people moving towards Rome. If Rome ever gets sacked, the game is over. For me, this was pretty straightforward. A small tabletop experience here, not this huge board or anything like this. Quick to set up, easy to feed the board. When we played this multiple times. The first time we said, this game's too easy. Second time was, this game's a little hard.
There's multiple setups. And we said, well, let's just go with the easy, see if we got it. And we went, okay, this game is nothing. So we went with the medium setup and went, oh, okay. that got a little hard that time.
Sail. You can move a boat in the Mediterranean. There's a boat out on the board that if it's in the zone in the Mediterranean and your piece is bordered up against it, you can then jump to another port. That's what the sail action does. Quick way to move around the board, because if it didn't have that, it would be very difficult to manage this, to defend the empire. So I like that. I like that ability where you have to make a decision. First game we put out 2 mini boats. The second game we only had 1. Made the complexity. It was amazing to me how complex that made the game later.
Yeah, 100% agree.
And I was like, okay. And like you said, just removing the various tokens, you'd spend your points to remove tokens or flip them to unrest versus rioting, and all that happens. Certain effects kick in when you roll the die and there's already a token there. Also, if the riot is next to an unrest, it flips to a riot. Then it's a riot. I'm sitting here thinking, why did that sound strange?
Revolt.
It's revolt. A riot.
It's a revolt.
It's a revolt. That's right.
Yeah.
It's a revolt.
And also then the barbarians are moving. They're continually moving towards Rome. Multiple barbarians can show up on the board. So cooperatively, you have to kind of maybe split your forces and try to go deal with those barbarians. You can go and attack the barbarians. You are in the process of putting down your pieces called garrisons on the board, which can help support your attacks. If you're adjacent to a line of your garrison tokens, that strengthens the amount of attack that you're going to have when you roll the dice, because it's an addition that you add to the dice roll. Likewise, if you're attacking a barbarian and they have a line of adjacent revolt tokens behind them, that adds to their attack. So part of the strategy is break up that revolt line so they don't get that bonus from the attack. Just a lot of strategy going on, just like in Pandemic. Very simple rules, but cooperatively, there's a lot of strategy and stuff going on as you play. And it's all resolved in 30 to 45 minutes. I mean, it's quick.
I know in Pandemic, there were things where suddenly the game would be over in no time, like back-to-back epidemics or things like that. Never felt like that would be a problem with this game. Like you had a chance, but you need to be better position yourself. So you could not spend your points just willy-nilly. Mm-hmm. You got to think through a lot of strategy. What am I doing on my next? How are you going to spend your points? How can we help one another? All that is part of that. So, I mean, why would I add another game style of Pandemic to my catalog? Well, first off, I know in this household after the pandemic, pandemic's not going to hit the table for a while, but I like how this has that feel to it. It kind of is the quickness of it. Maybe that is something that you would want to do or have in your catalog to say, hey, you want to play a quick co-op game? Let's put this one on the table. So if you're interested in it from my standpoint, I think it's a good one to add with your cooperative games.
And they have a new game that's just finished up on GameFound from the same designer in this series called España, which looks and kind of similar, but the rules are a little bit different in the actions that you take on your turn. Instead of dedicated action points, you're actually using resources to take actions. So it's not a duplicate style of game with a different theme. It's a whole new game in itself. And when this publishes, I will for sure want to get a copy of it, because it's not a very expensive game. It's only like $30, $35 that you can get. Yeah, I like it. Small box, easy to set up, and gives me that Pandemic feel with a little bit of combat in it.
That is Tetrarchia from Draco Ideas.
Oh, I love the rolling R's there.
I vacationed in Spain. Did I tell you about that?
5-minute initiative is complete.
When you're hearing this, you don't have a lot of time left to get the Batman Detective Series game. It's going out of print. You're not going to be able to get it. So head over to shopportalgames.com, secure your copy so you can have it. So in, say, 3-4 years, you can put your kid through college because you can put it out there on eBay and somebody will want it for that. I mean, that's what Marty and I did with comic books and baseball cards. Yeah. I didn't work too well.
No,
it did not. However, Ignacy, go over and check his YouTube channel. He's announced some of the new games coming from Portal. So be sure to pay attention to that. I mean, their website is constantly being updated. He's doing an amazing job of letting people know what's coming. Be sure to check it out at shopportalgames.com.
This past weekend, I got to go to another Star Wars Unlimited draft event.
I hate I missed it.
I know. I hate you did too. You were busy. You couldn't do it. So maybe we'll catch the next one. Our store had some boxes that were allocated to them specifically for running these types of events. So they opened it up. Draft event. 16 people showed up.
Woo!
It was a good crowd. And once again, man, what a great community they have there. People are super nice. For probably 14 of the people there, I was more than twice their age. But everybody was super friendly. It didn't matter. I enjoyed playing with the guys that I played with. I went 1-2. I won one game. That winning doesn't matter. There was actually a 7-year-old there, Tony, that went 2-1.
Wow.
He knew what he was doing.
Nice draft.
Yeah. And then at the very end, depending on how you do, you get these little promo packs, which contain hyperspace cards of random cards from the deck. The 7-year-old pulled hyperspace legendary Darth Vader.
Put it on eBay now.
Yeah, it's one of those that's just the regular legendary is pushing $80, $90, something like this, and this is the hyperspace version.
Oh, good for him. That's a good feeling right there. Hey, too bad not you, but great for him.
Yeah.
Well, make him a gamer for life.
Exactly. So once again, an amazing event. I loved it. I did learn, Tony, that I probably should go to a regular constructed event because as I played, I saw, you know what? I would understand the game more if I played against different decks and against people that knew kind of what they were doing and played a lot. because it would make me a better player. Don't get me wrong. I love playing against you and stuff, but playing against, going one Saturday and play against 4 different decks just gives me a breadth of experience to go, oh, I never thought about putting that card with that card. Oh, I love what you did by comboing that with that sort of deal.
Right. And that's what we did with the Netrunner when we'd go to the Netrunner constructed deck tournaments. We learned how what people were seeing in the combos and things that you and I haven't done. Now, we don't have all the cards, but we do have our unlimited or our uncommon sets now. So it will strengthen our decks a little bit. That's nice. Don't have a lot of rares, but I'm okay. I don't need to worry about chasing those rares this time. I just want to have fun with the game. Oh, and what leader did you play?
I played Cassian Andor, which is if you ever deal 3 or more damage to the base during this phase, exhaust him, draw a card, which was kind of fun. There was the last game that we played. It was so funny. Both of us had a bunch of restore in our deck, and we were constantly healing over the course of the game. It took forever because we healed like 20 health total probably. So we just couldn't get any damage on each other's face. He eventually got out a huge ground force and I couldn't take care of it. And he won, but that was a lot of fun. You mentioned about buying uncommons, and I was wanting to mention that I know a lot of people are really against the CCG model, which I totally get, but there are options out there like Tony and I just did. You can get like a set of, we bought 2 sets of uncommons for like $26. You can get a couple sets of commons, probably 3 sets, full 3 of commons for like $30. So for $55, you can have a ton of cards to build deck with. And for $10 to $15, you can get a complete set of bases and leaders. So literally for $75 or less, you could have hundreds of cards at your disposal to have a lot of fun, just making a bunch of casual decks. You don't have to spend $100 on a booster box. You can just spend very little and still have a good experience with a game like this.
Yeah, I like doing that. It makes it easier, makes it a lot more enjoyable. Well, do you know when they're going to do a constructed deck tournament over there yet?
Oh, I can go look at their calendar. I know they have a big store-wide event, like the real event coming sometime in June, but I think they're running events every Saturday. They do something Star Wars related every single Saturday.
Well, I better block a Saturday because right now my wife fills up my Saturdays, big boy. I better get something on the calendar.
Well, let me know what Saturday you're open, and I'll definitely go along too for sure.
All right, we'll definitely do that. So I'm glad you had fun. I hate I missed it, and I hope you guys. I hope you had a good pull. Well, in a constructed deck, you take only one card, right, and you pass, right?
Correct. So most people there were drafting for their decks. Every once in a while, I drafted for value. Like there was one time I had a legendary option and I only had like one of them. I knew I wasn't going to use it in my deck, but I took it because I wanted to supplement my set at home. Now, when you build your deck, you only need a deck of 30 and you draft like 40 something cards. I can't remember. So you're not going to use all the cards anyway. So sometimes during the draft, you may go, God, I could really use this in one of my other decks. Take it, and then you ain't got to use it in your main deck.
What was the strong aspect people were using?
Honestly, it just depends on the draft that you do. I did see a lot of red. A lot of people did lean into the aggression style of deck. I played against Boba. I played against Leia.
Okay.
But yeah, it really just depended on when you first opened and what heroes that you had or leaders that you had kind of dictated what path you were going to go at that point.
Okay. Because did leaders pass around a lot, or did everybody just take?
So what you do is you get 3 packs. You open each pack, and you peel off from the bottom the leader, and you don't look at anything else. And you have the 3 leaders in front of you. You're going to take one of those leaders, keep them past the other 2 to your right, and continue until you have 3 leaders left. And that's what you're going to use one of those for your deck.
All right, understand. Okay, well that's kind of cool. If I do make it, you'll have to take it easy on me because you're beating me up pretty good in our lunchtime place. But I'll get better. I'll spend more time reading some cards.
Well, my deck didn't do too well beforehand. I played against Eric, who was using a kind of a starter. He was using a starter deck, and it didn't do well against a starter deck at all. So. It's one of those things. I don't know whether do I tweak the deck or try something new. I don't know. I'm just having fun doing what I'm doing with it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of rolling into a new card game. That's the fun. As we often said, opening a pack of cards is like smelling a rainbow.
It is. That's going back 12 years when we said that.
Mm-hmm. So with that, keep rolling dice
and taking names. Hey y'all, does anybody really listen to this outro? Let's find out. We're going to give away a $10 gift card to Miniature Market. All you got to let me know is, hey, I heard this outro, enter me into the contest. You can contact us via email at rolldicetakenames@gmail.com, DM us on Twitter at DysonNames, or if you're in our Discord channel, just DM me there. One lucky winner will be chosen on June 4th. You got a neighborhood here of 4 quadrants that...
Wasn't my dog.
And here I was complaining about the dogs you had in yours, and here comes Taz.